I haven't been doing a lot of intense running. A lot of it's been around sort of mid zone 2, and my fitness has improved rapidly. And more than that, my confidence in my ability to actually be able to go out there and run without injury has improved, and without any real focus on speed work. Like my more tempo run or threshold style runs have dropped significantly, which blew my mind, because years ago I would have thought I had to be doing a lot of 200s and a lot of 400s at high pace in order to see any correlation to a faster running speed over a session like a tempo. And that was one thing I was really keen for you to explain to the relaxed running audience, was just this phenomenon. Because I think a lot of people, again, have that misconception that you want to run fast. Well, you have to make sure that a lot of your work is just fast. Whereas what you say in many respects is the complete opposite of that. You can see dramatic improvements just by doing slow running relatively
For sure,
regularly.
yeah. Yeah, it might have been 1980 that I was realizing all these things were happening in what I was discovering, because I was using heart monitors. I was using heart monitors before they came out. I had a cardiac monitor that was used in the hospital for cardiac patients, and it was this big bulky thing, and that's what I would test people with out on the track or out on the road. And I realized that if they slowed down to build their aerobic system, I was trying to get them to be better fat burners and develop the aerobic system. And as they slowed down over time, as the weeks went by, um, they would race faster. And so I wrote an article called uh, Training Slow to Race Fast. And I've modified it over the years, but it's still one of the most popular articles I ever wrote, because that concept of slowing down to get faster is just so it's just so bizarre to a lot of people. And I have a track and field background as well, and so everything was fast. That's what you do. But the difference between track and field and marathon running is night and day. They're not the same sport. It's not running. It's two very different states physiologically, and we need to get away from that mentality of sprinting. We need to get away from the images of we watch a marathon on TV and we see the lead pack and they're striding out like they're running 1,500 meters. That no, most people can't do that, and they shouldn't try, and they do try and they get injured, and that's another discussion. But um when you want if you want to know how well your aerobic system is working, um uh get a heart monitor, figure out what, based on your health and fitness, what your aerobic maximum heart rate should be. And I have something called the 180 formula. You can look that up. Go to the 180 formula, plug yourself in and determine your individual heart rate. So if you're coming up with 140 as a maximum heart rate, the question is, put your heart monitor on and go and do your normal run, but don't go over 140 heart rate, and see how different that is from your previous runs when you weren't trying to stay under 140 heart rate. And a lot of people get depressed because they run so slow. Well, don't blame it on me. It's because your aerobic system is trashed. And if your aerobic system, now you're saying, aerobic system, you do the run today. We're not going to rely on those fast twitch fibers. Can it do that? And for many people, no, it can't do that. And because the aerobic muscle fibers haven't been developed, they don't burn enough fat, and now you have to develop it. And so any sport, any activity, if we pick the wrong level to start, we're in trouble. It's like sending a kid to school. Oh, let's start him in the third grade instead of kindergarten. Well, that's not a good idea. So we need to start where our body is at. If our body's aerobic system is really just not good, then we start there. We run at a very slow pace. And what's interesting is as we develop that aerobic system now in training, and if our diet is not full of junk food, then um, what what happens is we get faster and faster and faster at that same 140 heart rate or whatever your heart rate is over time. And so in the beginning, people are complaining they're running too slow. After 6 months or a year, whenever, they're complaining they're running too fast at the same heart rate. And I've seen people go from, 10 minutes a mile to 7 minutes a mile over a period of time. It could take a year to go to 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 change that much. Um, but even if you're going from 10 minutes to 9 minutes a mile, man, you're excited and you're healthy and you're energetic. And you know what? You also race better. And I've recommended people do a base and aerobic base training period of 3 to 6 months before they do where you don't do any anaerobic, you don't do any hard training, you don't race. You say, okay, I got to start all over. Now you're going to build a base. And I did a study, 229 runners, shorter distance, five to 10K runners. I gave them an aerobic base period. They trained slow. They all complained. Every one of them complained. But at the end of the period, the end of I forget what it was. It might have been a 5 month period. 77% ran a personal best. These were all seasoned racers. And I've seen this in professionals as well. We'll just, people who are injured, they're trashed, they're thinking, I guess I got to retire. No, let's build the aerobic system. And now, okay, now we're going to race. Well, how could I race? I've been training slow for these months. I wouldn't know how, your brain knows everything actually. And so you jump into a race, and I've seen amazing results because most of that race depends on the aerobic system. And the anaerobic system, the speed stuff, we always have it. We don't have to train for it. We always have it. Look at some people who are not training, and they're walking on the street, and there's a big rainstorm. They sprint for some cover. They could turn their sprint anaerobic system on instantly because we're hardwired for that.
Yeah.
But it's the aerobic system that has to be trained, and the diet plays a huge role, and then the training plays a huge role as well.